I took a 3-hour nap every day and expected my husband to look after the kids and only wake me up for emergencies. I work night shifts at the hospital as a nurse, getting home around 7 a.m. completely dead on my feet. My husband, Jake, works from home doing some tech stuff, so I figured he could handle our 2 kids, Mia, who's 5, and Connor, who's 3, while I caught up on sleep from 2 Syrian to 5 p.m. every day. Jake seemed fine with it at first. He'd take the kids to the park, make them snacks, put on cartoons. I'd wake up refreshed and ready to handle dinner and bedtime. It worked for like 3 months. Then, Jake started getting weird about it. He'd wake me up for the dumbest stuff. Connor wanted a specific cup. Mia couldn't find her favorite hair tie. They were being too loud during his work calls. I was like, dude, these aren't emergencies. I specifically said emergencies only. One Tuesday, I woke up to Jake shaking me at 3:30. I was so groggy and confused. He was like, Mia fell off her bike and scraped her knee pretty bad. I shot up thinking she needed stitches or something. Nope. It was literally just a scrape, like the kind you put a Band-Aid on and kissed better. I was so mad. I told him that wasn't an emergency and went back to sleep, but I could hear him slamming cabinets downstairs. The breaking point came last Friday. I'd been up all night dealing with 3 different patients in crisis, then got home and crashed hard. Around 3 p.m., Jake burst into our room yelling, "Emergency, emergency." I literally thought someone was dying. I ran downstairs in my pajamas and found both kids sitting calmly at the kitchen table eating goldfish crackers. Connor had somehow gotten permanent marker on his forehead. Just a little squiggle. Mia was completely fine watching Bluey on the iPad. "Where's the emergency?" I asked, my heart still pounding. Jake pointed at Connor's forehead. He drew on himself with permanent marker. I can't get it off. I stared at him. "Are you serious right now? That's why you woke me up? You said emergencies only." This seemed like an emergency to me. That's when I lost it. I grabbed baby wipes from the counter and rubbed Connor's forehead twice. The marker came right off. It was washable marker, not even permanent. Connor giggled the whole time. "This is washable marker, Jake. And even if it was permanent, it's not an emergency. Kids draw on themselves. It happens." Jake's face got all red. "Well, maybe if you actually helped with the kids instead of sleeping all day, I'd know how to handle this stuff better." Sleeping all day? I work 12-hour night shifts, saving people's lives. I come home exhausted and need to recover so I can function as a human being and a mom. I work nights, Jake. Night shifts. You know this. You agreed to this arrangement? Yeah. Well, I didn't know you'd be completely useless during the day. That hit different. I looked at my kids who were now staring at us with these confused, scared expressions. Mia had stopped eating her crackers. "Kids, go play in the living room for a minute," I said softly. Once they left, I turned back to Jake. "Useless? I work my ass off to help support this family. This was supposed to be a partnership. Some partnership. I do everything while you sleep. You work from home. Your job is flexible. Mine isn't." We talked about this, but Jake was already walking away, muttering something about how his mom never needed 3-hour naps when she had kids. That night after the kids went to bed, I sat Jake down for a real conversation. I explained again how night shifts mess with your circadian rhythm, how I literally cannot function without adequate sleep, how this arrangement was supposed to make our family work better. Jake finally admitted he was feeling overwhelmed and resentful. He said his work productivity had dropped because he was constantly dealing with kid stuff, and he felt like he couldn't say anything because I was always too tired to discuss it. We worked out a new system. I'd still nap, but only for 2 hours instead of 3. Jake would handle the kids during that time, but could wake me for actual emergencies, blood, broken bones, actual danger. For everything else, he'd text me and I'd respond when I woke up. We also arranged for his mom to watch the kids 2 afternoons a week, so Jake could have uninterrupted work. I took a 3-hour nap every day and told my husband to wake me only for emergencies. That's what I said. Emergencies only. I work nights. As a nurse, 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer, depending on how many patients come through the ER doors. When I get home around 7 a.m., I'm beyond tired. It's not just sleepy tired. It's the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones. The kind where you forget what day it is, where your own name sounds strange when someone says it. Jake, my husband, works from home doing IT support. He's got his own little office set up in the corner of our living room. We figured since he's home during the day, he could handle the kids while I caught up on sleep in the afternoons. It sounded perfect, practical even. Every day after breakfast, I'd take a shower, say goodbye to Mia and Connor, and crash from 2 to 5 p.m. Jake agreed, wake me only for emergencies. At first, he handled it like a champ. He'd take the kids to the park, make peanut butter sandwiches, keep them busy while I slept like the dead upstairs. For 3 months, everything ran smoothly. I'd wake up refreshed and ready to make dinner, help with homework, and do the bedtime routine. Then, the complaints started. It began small. Jake waking me up because Connor wanted his blue cup, not the green one. Then because Mia couldn't find her favorite hair tie. Then because they were being too loud while he was on a call. I'd sit up, groggy and dizzy, wondering if I was still dreaming. Jake, I told him one day, this isn't what we agreed on. I said emergencies only. He muttered something under his breath about how he couldn't tell the difference anymore. The real trouble started one Tuesday. I was halfway through my nap when Jake shook me awake, panic in his voice. Mia fell. Off her bike! She's bleeding! I jumped out of bed, heart racing, still half asleep, expecting to see broken bones or blood everywhere. Instead, I found Mia sitting calmly on the kitchen counter with a tiny scrape on her knee, the kind of scrape you fix with a Band-Aid and a kiss. I patched her up in 2 minutes and stared at Jake. That's not an emergency, I said flatly, and went back upstairs, my pulse still hammering. He didn't talk to me the rest of that day. Then came Friday. I'd worked a brutal shift, 3 trauma cases back to back, no breaks, no food. By the time I got home, I felt like I was made of lead. I tucked the kids in for cartoons, kissed Jake good morning, and collapsed into bed around 10 a.m. Around 3 p.m., I woke to Jake bursting into the room shouting, "Emergency! Emergency!" I flew out of bed so fast I nearly tripped over the blanket. My heart was pounding. I thought someone was hurt. Or worse. I ran downstairs to find both kids perfectly fine at the kitchen table, munching on goldfish crackers. Connor had a faint squiggle on his forehead. Jake looked like he was about to faint. He drew on himself with permanent marker, Jake said. I can't get it off. I just stared at him. That's the emergency? Yes, it's not coming off. I picked up a baby wipe and rubbed Connor's forehead twice. The permanent marker came off instantly. It wasn't even permanent. Connor giggled. Washable marker, I said quietly. Not an emergency. Jake's face flushed red. Well, maybe if you actually helped with the kids instead of sleeping all day, I'd know how to handle this stuff better. That one hit hard. I stared at him, disbelief turning to anger. Sleeping all day? Jake, I'm not taking naps because I'm lazy. I work 12-hour night shifts. I'm literally saving lives while you're asleep. I need that rest to stay functional. He scoffed. Yeah, well, my mom didn't need 3-hour naps when she had kids. I felt my chest tighten. The kids were staring, wide-eyed and silent. I told them gently, "Go play in the living room, sweethearts." Once they were gone, I turned back to him. Don't compare me to your mom. I'm not living in the 80s. I'm working nights in a trauma unit, not sitting at home with casseroles. He didn't answer, just walked off, muttering under his breath. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat him down. No yelling, no sarcasm, just raw honesty. I explained how night shifts mess with your entire body, your brain chemistry, your heart rate, your ability to focus. I told him how I wasn't trying to dump responsibility on him, but that we both needed to function as a team. For the first time, he actually listened. His shoulders dropped. He looked tired too, really tired. I just feel like I'm failing, he said quietly. Work's been crazy. The kids never stop needing something, and I didn't know how to say anything because you're always so exhausted. We talked for hours. Really talked. In the end, we compromised. I'd nap for 2 hours instead of 3. Jake could wake me up only for true emergencies. Blood, danger, hospital-level stuff. For everything else, he'd text me and I'd answer when I woke up. We also agreed to have his mom watch the kids twice a week so he could focus on work without feeling like a babysitter. It wasn't perfect. But that night, when I went to bed before my next shift, I heard Jake reading stories to the kids. His voice was calm again. And as I drifted off, I realized something. Sometimes a marriage isn't about splitting everything 50-50. Sometimes it's about understanding that both of you are doing your best in a world that never stops asking for more. Story 2, I surprised my girlfriend with a luxury cruise, but she secretly downgraded my cabin to upgrade her friends without telling me. I only found out halfway through the trip and what I did next. Left her speechless. Watched to see how the ultimate betrayal turned into the ultimate revenge. Chapter 1, A Gift from the Heart. I stood at the dock with a smile that nearly split my face. Behind me, the gentle hum of the ocean mixed with the excited chatter of cruise passengers boarding the luxury liner. But my eyes were only on her, Samantha. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was the woman I'd spent 4 years building a future with. Through her law school, her family drama, her insecurities, I was there. And now that my own software company had turned a major corner with a 6-figure deal, I wanted to do something unforgettable. "This is all for you," I whispered, holding out the envelope with the cruise tickets, watching her eyes go wide. She screamed, jumped into my arms, and kissed me right there in front of everyone. "I've never even dreamed of something like this," she gasped. "We're going to the Caribbean, a suite with a balcony." I had booked the best suite on the ship. Private deck, personal butler, oceanfront views. All she had to do was show up and enjoy. And she did, at least at first. By the second night, things started to feel off. She was gone for long stretches of time, always with her girls who just so happened to be on the same cruise. She was cold in the room, always distracted. She'd laugh at messages and hide her screen. I chalked it up to excitement until the moment that changed everything. Mini cliffhanger ending as per your blueprint. The third night, while trying to surprise her with a romantic dinner, I returned to our room early, but my keycard didn't work. When I went to the concierge for help, he looked confused. "Sir," he said, tapping on his computer, "this room isn't registered under your name anymore. You were downgraded to Deck 4 inside cabin. No window," I blinked. "What are you talking about?" He turned the monitor toward me and I saw it. My name scratched out. Her friends upgraded to oceanfront cabins and a note guest authorized by Samantha C. My jaw clenched. She had used my gift to kick me down and upgrade her friends, and that's when I knew this wasn't going to end the way she thought it would. Chapter 2, Her Luxury. My downgrade. Deck 4, no view, no balcony, no Samantha. The room was a claustrophobic box, barely big enough for the suitcase I was dragging behind me. No sunlight, just a humming vent and dim ceiling lights that flickered slightly like they couldn't make up their mind. I sat on the tiny bed, staring at the worn carpet, feeling like I had just been kicked out of my own life. All those nights I stayed late at the office. All those times I said no to myself so I could say yes to her. The birthday I spent coding instead of celebrating just so I could close the deal that paid for this cruise. And she had the audacity to steal that gift to give my generosity to her 2 freeloading influencer friends who always called me the boring boyfriend with no swag. That was the moment the anger started bubbling. But I didn't explode. Number I planned. I picked up my phone and opened the ship's internal messaging app. Sure enough, Samantha was in a private hot tub suite, room 1402, with her 2 friends, Tasha and Mina. Their Instagram posts had started trickling in. Nothing like ocean views with your girls. Surprise upgrade manifested, not paid. If he wanted to, he would. Oops. I guess he didn't. They thought I wouldn't find out. They thought I'd sit quietly in the shadows while they played rich. And that's when the idea formed. Not revenge in anger, revenge in silence, in luxury, in style. I picked up the ship phone, dialed concierge, and asked for something very specific. "Yes, I'd like to book the premium Skydeck suite for a solo traveler." "Sir," the voice replied, "that's our most exclusive room. It includes butler service, a private chef, and VIP access to the captain's party." "It's $5,000 more," I smiled. "Charge it and send a bottle of chilled champagne. Tell them it's for the man who just got promoted from the shadows." Chapter 3, The Captain's Party. 2 days passed. I made no mention of the downgrade. No confrontation. Not a word to Samantha. Instead, I lived like royalty. Room 2201 on the sky deck was a floating penthouse. Glass walls facing the ocean. A king-size bed wrapped in silk. a butler named Jorge who greeted me each morning with fresh espresso and handwritten weather updates. And Samantha, she didn't even know where I was until the captain's exclusive gala. It was a formal night, tuxedos and gowns by invitation only. I arrived early wearing the suit I bought for our engagement party that never happened. The captain greeted me personally. He remembered I was the one who had booked the cruise under my name. He clapped my back and led me in. That's when Samantha entered. She was wearing a shimmering red dress flanked by Tasha and Mina. Their eyes were already scanning the room. And the moment she saw me alone, champagne in hand, chatting with the ship's executives, she froze. Tasha whispered something and giggled. Mina laughed too until she saw what happened next. The captain raised his glass and said loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's toast our VIP guest, Mr. Daniel Price. Without him, this cruise wouldn't be possible." Applause, heads turned. Samantha's face went pale. You could see it all click in her mind. Wait, why is he here? Why is he being celebrated? How the hell did he end up here while I stuck him in a bottom deck box? And then her mask cracked. She stormed over, pretending to smile, and hissed under her breath, "What the hell is going on, Daniel?" I sipped my drink, calm, collected. Then I leaned close and whispered, "You upgraded your friends? I upgraded my life. Welcome to the cruise, sweetheart." Before she could respond, Jorge, my butler, appeared with a silver tray. "Sir, your private dinner is ready on the helipad deck. Shall I escort you?" I smiled at Samantha and gently tapped my glass to hers. "Enjoy your buffet," and walked out. Chapter 4. The Fall from First Class. That night, Samantha didn't sleep. Neither did her friends. The laughter at their table during dinner was awkward, forced. They'd seen the way the crew treated me, how other guests smiled and nodded in recognition, how my name was listed on the itinerary as the cruise's platinum patron. Meanwhile, Samantha, who had plotted to humiliate me, was now being ignored by the very people she had upgraded herself to impress. The confrontation. The next morning, I was at the upper deck spa, sipping fresh coconut water when she found me. "Daniel, we need to talk." I set my glass down slowly. She was still in her red dress from the night before, wrinkled, her heels in hand, mascara slightly smudged. "Was all this some plan to punish me?" she asked. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean like how you downgraded me without telling me? Just to get your friends a better room?" She hesitated. "I didn't think you'd notice. I thought you'd just go with it. It was just a cabin." And I laughed. A long, tired, hollow laugh. "That's the problem, Sam. It was never just a cabin. It was a reflection of everything you've become. You wanted to shine in front of your friends. So you decided I was expendable." Her lip quivered. "That's not fair. Neither was spending 22 hours in a dark, windowless box while your friends bragged about their champagne delivery and deck views." She tried to grab my hand. I made a mistake. I was wrong. "Please, can we just enjoy the rest of the trip together?" But it was too late. The twist. I pulled out a small folder and handed it to her. "This is your new cabin." I had it reassigned. She looked confused, then opened it. Her face turned white. "Wait, room B12? That's steerage," I nodded. The same room I was sent to. I had a chat with the hospitality director. "Since you were the one who booked my downgrade, your name's on file for the reassignment." I simply requested it be swapped, effective immediately. Her voice cracked. "You can't do that." "I already did." "Oh, and your friends?" "They've been moved too. Back to standard economy. Enjoy the buffet lines." Just then, Jorge arrived with a clipboard. "Mr. Price, the VIP deck is reserved for you and your guests only per your package. Shall I escort this woman out?" I didn't even need to say a word. Samantha stared at me. Speechless, humiliated, defeated, and then turned around, heels clicking against the wooden deck as she was led away by Jorge. As she left, I turned back to my lounge chair and tapped my phone. A message popped up. "Would you like to invite someone else to join you for dinner on the private island?" I smiled. "Yes, let's turn betrayal into freedom." Chapter 5. Champagne, Lies, and Public Apologies. 2 days after the cabin reversal, the cruise ship anchored near a breathtaking private island. White sands, crystal blue waters, open-air dining under swaying palm trees. The event, Captain's Gala Night, a formal dinner reserved for platinum-tier guests and their companions. I had RSVP'd for 2, but I hadn't told anyone who my guest would be. A desperate plea. That afternoon, as I walked through the lounge in a crisp linen suit, Samantha caught up to me. She looked different. Gone was the glam, the heels, the arrogance. She was in a wrinkled sundress, hair tied back, eyes tired from sleepless nights in her windowless cabin. Daniel, please, I've made a terrible mistake. I was stupid. I got caught up trying to impress people who don't even matter. I remained silent. I miss you, she whispered. Can we just start again? I tilted my head. Start again? I'll apologize. I'll talk to the crew. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding. Let me join you for the gala dinner tonight. Just us. Like it should have been, and I studied her carefully. You want to fix things? She nodded quickly, hopeful. Then come tonight, black tie only. Don't be late. The dinner she never saw. Coming that night, the beach was lit with hundreds of soft lanterns. A string quartet played near the shoreline. Guests clinked champagne glasses and admired the horizon as the sun dipped behind the waves. I arrived early, not alone. My guest, the ship's events coordinator, Natalie. She was the one who had kindly upgraded me after learning of the betrayal. And tonight, in a simple but elegant navy gown, she looked radiant. We walked in hand. A small buzz rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Curious eyes followed us. Then, exactly 15 minutes late, Samantha arrived. She was alone, wearing a red gown, clearly the same one from the other night, trying to replicate the glamour, but it didn't work anymore. As she approached our table, I stood up, but not to greet her. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, lifting my glass. A brief story, if I may. The entire beach turned toward us. A few days ago, I was downgraded to the lowest cabin on this ship by someone I trusted because she thought impressing others was more valuable than respecting the one who gifted her the experience in the first place. Gasps, I continued. Eyes on Samantha? But betrayal has a way of showing you who truly belongs in your life. And tonight, I'm grateful because if I hadn't been tossed to the bottom deck, I wouldn't have discovered real kindness at the top. I raised Natalie's hand to loyalty, to character, and to never settling for less than we deserve. The guests erupted into applause. Samantha stood frozen, humiliated in front of the richest, most influential guests on board. Then she did something no one expected. She dropped her glass and ran. As the crowd returned to their conversations and laughter, I turned to Natalie. Revenge isn't always about destruction, I said quietly. Sometimes it's just about reminding people they no longer have power over you. She smiled. And sometimes, she added, it's about choosing who deserves the next chapter of your story. Chapter 6. The Final Message. Back on land, a week after the cruise, I had all but moved on. The cruise had been a strange blend of heartbreak and healing. Samantha had ghosted me since that night on the beach, and honestly, I preferred the silence. Natalie and I stayed in touch, texting now and then. She had her own life, her own rhythm, but there was mutual respect, and maybe the start of something better. Then came the voicemail. I had just returned from a jog when I noticed a missed call from Samantha. Daniel. Hey, I know I probably shouldn't be calling you, but I made a mistake. A huge one. I thought I was upgrading my life by chasing appearances, but when I looked around that night, the only one with real class, real strength, was you. She paused, almost crying. I went back to our old apartment yesterday. Your jacket was still on the hook. Your mug on the shelf. I just needed to hear your voice again. Please call me back. I still love you. I stood there frozen, not with hope, not with anger, just realization. The letter that sealed it all. I didn't call her back. Instead, I sent her a simple letter. It read, Samantha, you didn't lose me because you made a mistake. You lost me because you made a choice. One that told me exactly where I stood in your world. You taught me that love without respect is just a performance. And I'm done being part of your show. Goodbye. I included a photo. It was the one taken at the gala dinner, the one where I stood, glass raised beside Natalie. The background was a crowd of applauding strangers. The foreground was the smile of a man who had finally remembered his worth. One last twist. Weeks later, through a mutual friend, I learned that Samantha's friends had dropped her. Turns out they weren't fans of her behavior either, especially when she bragged that he'll forgive me eventually. He always does, but this time I didn't. She tried dating again. But apparently no one measured up. The girl who chased upgrades wound up lonely in economy class, wondering how she lost the one person who once gave her the world. Final reflection. Revenge isn't always explosive. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's growth, and sometimes it's simply walking away with your dignity intact. while the other person watches the door close and realizes it's locked for good. Was this revenge perfectly justified?